Coming in at number 10, we have Alcatraz Island of Evil. I saw Alcatraz from across the water in San Francisco Bay, and I have to say, it is a very, very freaky place to look at. Before Alcatraz was even a high security prison, Miwok tribes of California were not about the rock. They thought that the sandstone rock that protrudes from the middle of San Francisco Bay was inhabited by evil spirits. When the prison was built on the rock, it became one of the most notorious high security prisons of all time. It's presumed that all who tried to escape the jail were killed. If the fall into the rocky water didn't kill you, the sharks that infested the water might. The prison was infamous for the criminals it hosted, their somewhat inhumane confinement, and the murders that happened within the walls of the jail. Alcatraz stopped functioning as a prison in 1963, but the memories of the building's brutal era live on. In 1946, 3 men were killed in a bloody standoff in Block C. Now these days, National Park employees believe that C Block is haunted. Security hear clanging and dissonant screams at night, and it's reportedly haunted by a troublemaking ghost called Butcher. He was a hitman killed by another prisoner. The most haunted place in the building, however, is allegedly Cell 14D, a solitary confinement hole. Now the hole is said to turn men crazy. Now, criminally insane, to me, is a lot worse than simply being a criminal. It seems that Alcatraz was always an island of evil spirits, but by building a jail there, the United States government added a few more to the mix, whilst damning others to expire there. Coming into number 9, we have the story of the Billywhack monster. Ah yes, the legend of Billywhack. So this Californian legend goes all the way back to the 1940s, but it is still going strong today. The old Billywhack dairy building is situated in Santa Paula in Ventura County. The building was indeed an old dairy and was run by August Rubel, a German national living in the United States. Rumor had it at the time that Rubel had a secret lab under the dairy where he was working with the government to create a super soldier for warfare. In 1943, he had to go back to Germany, which was tricky as he was working for the Allies and war had already broken out. It seems that Rubel was killed by a German landmine and was unable to return to the Billywhack dairy. Some years later, a strange creature was reported in the area around the now abandoned dairy. Most of the reports came from students at Santa Paula High School who called police to let them know that their cars were being hit by rocks. Who was throwing the rocks? Apparently a weird looking large animal. Some students even reported being set upon by a large white humanoid looking creature with goat-like horns and razor-sharp claws. It seems something fitting that description terrorized hikers nearby in 1964. It wasn't just the monster causing trouble either. Locals were getting frustrated with the teams of vigilantes turning up to try and hunt the beast. Coming in at number 6, we have the legend of California's skinwalkers. In Navajo culture, a lot of people believe in skinwalkers. Skinwalkers are said to be witches who ascend to their superhuman powers by murdering a close member of their family. These skinwalkers can then take the form of an animal of their choosing, although they usually appear as wolves, owls and coyotes, foxes and crows. These witches are said to be extremely dangerous, and you do not want to encounter one for fear of invoking their wrath. These skinwalkers are said to be most commonly found stalking deserts in California, like Death Valley. They are also said to appear in the Mojave National Reserve and Joshua Tree. When Nick Redfern visited Joshua Tree in August 2010 for a VH1 documentary, he said he came across a woman who helped save injured wolves and other animals in the area. Very nice of her. Despite saving the wolves, she was deathly terrified of meeting a skinwalker, so much so that she wouldn't even utter the S word. Coming into number 7, we have Turnbull Canyon. Turnbull Canyon was dubbed the Dark Place by local native tribes, and that nickname has more to it than simply referring to a lack of light. Back then, the native tribes would refuse to set foot there. The place became even darker when Spanish invaders forced natives into the canyon, killing those that fell out of line. Since then, legend says that every Native American killed in the canyon still haunts it today, watching passers-by and waiting for the sun to rise. Many explorers feel watched when they venture out into the canyon. Not only is the canyon haunted by the spirits of the wronged natives, but it is also said to be a hotbed for occult activity. There have been reports of black-robed beings making effigies in the remote area. A string of disappearances around the nearby Puente Hills has been put down to satanic activity in the canyon. To make this a triple whammy of creepy, there is also an abandoned mental asylum in the canyon. Great. Coming in at number 6, we have the legends of Stowe Lake. The White Lady is said to be one of the ghosts of San Francisco, and this particular lost soul is said to haunt the Stowe Lake area of the city. Few are brave enough to walk by Stowe Lake at night, although some zealous youths do find it funny to turn amateur ghost hunters by provoking the spirit. Now the story goes that once upon a time a woman was out walking her baby in a stroller. She became tired and she sat down on a bench next to the lake, taking in the sights. Another lady decided to sit down and join her, and they had a brief chat. While the women chatted, it is said that the stroller rolled away unnoticed, either because its brakes were faulty, or they weren't put on properly, or someone abducted the child. The mother became very distressed and started frantically wandering the area asking if anyone had seen her child. Eventually, she thought the baby must have rolled into the lake, and so she got into the water to look for her. After that, neither mother or child were seen again, and it is presumed that the woman drowned. These days, at night, her ghostly apparition still stalks the area looking for her child. Now some versions of the urban legend say that you can summon the ghost yourself. Allegedly, if you say, white lady, I have your baby, 3 times over, the lady will appear. She'll then ask you, have you seen my baby? And if you say yes, she'll haunt you, and if you say no, she'll kill you. Coming into number 5, we have the Angel of Bodie. Bodie is one of many Californian ghost towns. As we know, California was at the forefront of the gold rush, but it was also heavy on the silver mining. Bodie had 10,000 residents in 1859 and was thriving in 1894 when little Evelyn Myers was born. Growing up around a mine has its dangers, but as families settled to make their fortunes, this was the life many children in the southwest of the United States came to know. Little Evelyn was nearly 4 years old when she tragically lost her life. Her downfall was her playful curiosity. She liked to follow the miners to work, and she would often land herself in trouble with her parents. One day she followed a miner to work and he sent her back home, but she was sneaky and snuck back to watch him work. Sadly, he didn't know that she was behind him when he swung his pickaxe backwards and crushed her skull. A monument was erected in her honor, and it is now said that her ghost haunts a deserted town. She can be heard laughing and giggling as she skips gleefully around her home. Don't like this one at number 4. We have the story of the charred man of Creek Road. I don't like a ghost at the best of times, but charred ghosts with vacant eye sockets? No. No thank you, not today. The legend of the Charred Man has been told around Ojai campfires for decades. The Charred Man is said to stalk Creek Road and the Camp Comfort County Park. Many have reported seeing the ghostly apparition of a man on fire with black burned skin and hollow eye sockets. The Charred Man has most commonly been spotted in the Creek Road Bridge. When a car passes the bridge, it is said that he will emerge and glare at passengers. Not only that, he comes with a stench of burning flesh, which is something I've luckily never had to experience. Can only imagine it's truly awful though. It is said that the man leaves an imprint of ash on cars that get too close to him. Coming into number 3, we have the monster of Elizabeth Lake. While Elizabeth Lake in the Antelope Valley may look like heaven, it actually has a hellish legend attached to it. Los Angeles County's largest natural lake could contain a nasty beast. Legend has it that the lake was created by the devil himself, and he placed one of his own pets inside it. If you swim deep enough, you may find a secret passage that leads to the underworld. The lake monster uses this passage to move between Earth and the netherworld. Now the lake was originally referred to by Spanish settlers as La Laguna de Diablo, the lake of the devil. This was because they were convinced of the lurking monster. In the late 1800s, a group of men claimed to have witnessed the ascension of a vast monster with bat wings coming out of the lake. Coming into number 2, we have the story of the Fresno Nightcrawler. The Nightcrawler. Rumors of a strange cryptid walking around at night in Fresno, California began surfacing in the late 90s and early 2000s. There were only a handful of eyewitnesses, and reports were shaky until some strange footage emerged in 2008. CCTV videos seemed to show a strange biped walking around a road. By biped, I mean that was pretty much it. The figure was all legs walking down the street like dexterous tweezers, or I guess a bit like possessed trousers. I don't like it. I don't like it. The footage is grainy, but definitely strange. Why not have a watch for yourself? Many people think that this strange Nightcrawler is some kind of Fresno monster, but more people out there think it's an alien. Similar cryptids have been spotted in Yosemite and Poland. What is this figure? Is it a puppet? Is it an alien? Is it an undiscovered creature? A ghost? A ghoul? Is the Fresno Nightcrawler real, whatever it may be, or is it a bizarre hoax? I just don't know. Finally, coming into number 1, this actually deeply unsettled me, and this has got more eyewitnesses than any on the list. We have the Dark Watchers of Santa Lucia. The Dark Watchers are a legend in Santa Lucia, California, and were known by Spanish settlers as Los Vigilantes Oscuro. The Watchers are regularly described as tools, sometimes giant-sized, figureless dark silhouettes, often adorned with brim hats or walking sticks. They have been frequently spotted in the Santa Lucia Mountains watching passers-by. Now the figures are mainly spotted around twilight and dawn. No one has ever seen one up close, and it is said that if a person does ever come close to one, they'll disappear. They've been regularly spotted by walkers, and many believe that if they stay on the path they're on and just keep on going about their business, the Watchers won't bother them. Writer John Steinbeck's son Thomas believed that he saw the Watchers growing up. In the late 1960s, a high school principal reported seeing a tall man with a hat watching him as he led a group hike. When he called out, the figure disappeared. Now people still report seeing these Watchers to this day. Scientists offer a number of different explanations for the sightings, with some saying that they could be Brocken specters. These happen in certain atmospheric conditions when the sun is at a particular angle. This could explain the whole dawn and dusk thing. Others say they could be fatigue-based hallucinations, but honestly, as people keep spotting them, the legend just keeps on growing.
Starting us off at number 10 is Suicide Bridge. Starting off strong, you know how I am. Built in 1912, the Pasadena, Colorado Street Bridge is a scenic drive. It's on a riverbed, it has lamps, there's an old charm about it that makes it romantic almost, but it's also the site of many atrocities. Over 100 horrible suicides have taken place at the bridge that the bridge is actually called Suicide Bridge by most. It garnered such a reputation that in 1993 they installed a suicide barrier on the bridge to try and lower the numbers. The stories of the suicides are also very hard to digest. In 1937, Myrtle Ward took her 3-year-old daughter to the bridge after her husband left her. She threw her daughter off the bridge and then leaped herself, but thankfully her daughter landed in a few thick branches which slowed her descent and left her unharmed, but Myrtle plummeted to her death. Many have seen her ghost on the bridge and in the riverbed below, forever looking for her daughter. Another story is more recent, taking place in 2008, where a man stabbed and killed his wife and grandmother and then killed himself. And that was only 2 stories out of countless ones I could have told you. So of course, with that much death going on there are that many ghosts. Many spirits haunt the bridge, including a man wearing glasses and a woman that continuously keeps mimicking her fall off the bridge. Homeless people camping under the bridge have reported hearing eerie cries and sounds at night, and the ghost of a man who whispers her fault to anyone that walks by, obviously referring to whoever drove him to take his own life, but no one knows who he's talking about. Coming in at number 9 is Alien Blood. I actually read about this story a few years ago and I didn't realize how much of a lasting impact it left on California, but evidently I guess it did. Back in 1984 at Riverside General Hospital, a woman called Gloria Ramirez was admitted to the ER to have her blood drawn, but as soon as it was drawn, the foulest smell filled the room and her skin started becoming oilier and oilier. Then, like flies, the medical staff started dropping, half started passing out, while the other half lost complete control of their limbs. 5 members ended up being hospitalized and 1 even spent 2 weeks in intensive care. The weird occurrence affected over 24 members of staff, which left a skeleton crew to try and save her life. They failed and she died 40 minutes later. Until this day, no one has any idea what happened or what it was about her blood that took down 23 people. They dub it the legend of the alien blood that poisoned the hospital. And to me, I feel like science has a lot of answers for a lot of things, but when something comes up that they can't answer and nearly 40 years later they still can't answer it, that's worrying. At number 8 we have the Lady in White, because every urban legend video would not be complete without at least one ghostly lady wearing white. Hailed as one of the most famous Californian urban legends, the legend is about the thing that probably makes California famous, the Hollywood sign. The sign has been the backdrop of countless Instagrams and movies and is said to be haunted by Peg Entwistle, a famous actress from the early 1900s. That's so Hollywood, isn't it? An actress haunting the sign. It came full circle almost. But anyway, the legend goes like this. After an excruciatingly harsh review of one of her movies, one people dubbed a career-ending review, she decided she couldn't take the thought of her career ending, and so she decided to end her life instead. She climbed to the top of the H in the sign and threw herself off of it. So So based on that, many people claim a lady in white can be seen hiking in the off-limits area near the sign around the place she killed herself. But if you find yourself up there and are hoping to see a beautiful actress, you'd be quite wrong. What appears is an eerie woman with hollowed out eyes and a skeletal face. If she finds you there alone, she can influence you to follow in her footsteps and end your life as well. In the century that followed her suicide, many suicide cases have been reported in the area, and in 2012 police even found a man's mutilated body parts and decapitated head right where she killed herself. Filling our number 7 slot is the prop of New Pike. So Elmer McCurdy was a famously notorious outlaw who died in the early 1900s. In 1911, his embalmed corpse became a sideshow act through Texas for people who wanted to come and gawk at the criminal and his displayed body. Or rather, his body traveled all over America, eventually landing itself in Long Beach, California. There, his body was mistaken for a prop and was hung in a fun house at New Pike Amusement Park. The truth was only discovered in 1976 when a film crew tried to adjust him and ended up dislodging his arm. Imagine going into that funhouse as a kid expecting mildly scary props and then coming face to face with a real corpse. I'd never go to an amusement park again. Legit I wouldn't. Now at number 6 is Old Stage Road. Now Old Stage Road is located in Salmas and it's been the site of horrible deaths, gang-related deaths, lynchings, and a Japanese concentration camp was even located there during the wartime. So due to all that death, countless ghosts and spirits do haunt the road. But this specific story comes from Redditor Moonriver7811, who said his aunt told him a story of when she was young and pregnant. Her and her husband decided to take some back roads as a shortcut and ended up on Old Stage Road. She was looking out the window for a while and she suddenly saw a woman. The woman was keeping pace with the car and just turned her head to look at his aunt, and what she saw scarred her for life. The skin of the woman was so pale it looked almost transparent. Her hair was like white hay, she seemed almost 100 years old. But it wasn't even her appearance that freaked his aunt out, it was the hatred and anger she could see in her eyes. The uncle stepped on the gas and they managed to get rid of her. And the user decided after hearing the story he should also go to the road as well with his friends at 3 AM drunk. The friends went there and stopped near Hangman's Tree and decided to walk on the road, not stay inside the safety of their car. Very stupid mistake, kids. One of the friends decided to pee on the tree, douchebag move, and it's not surprising that pissed off spirits after that. They got back into the car and were switching between CDs when they heard a loud "Get Out" on the radio. After hearing it and realizing it was none of them, they drove for their lives. Half a mile later, one of the friends in the back who had been asleep the whole time screamed, saying she'd had the worst nightmare. She never remembered going back into the car and said she was walking down the street and turned around and saw that the car wasn't there anymore. All of a sudden, an old lady with rotten teeth and claws tried to bite her, and that's when she woke up. Despite the road being old as hell, murders still continue to happen on and around it. Coming in at number 5 is Bigfoot. It's like the most well-known urban legend of all time. I'd argue it was maybe even the first one. But anyway, coming in second to Washington, California has the most reported Bigfoot sightings in the US. The creature, which is said to be a giant hairy human ape creature of sorts, is said to live in the wilderness. Yosemite National Park is said to be the most haunted national park in America because it was Bigfoot's first home. Campers have apparently seen it wander into their camps, to which of course they've screamed and ran away. The weirder part is that Bigfoot has been said to scream louder and run too, which is a bit cute, I'm not gonna lie. In 1962 on Mount Shasta, a woman claimed to have seen Bigfoot give birth, which A, I didn't even know it was a female, and B, now we have a mini Bigfoot on our hands. But I guess that was nearly 80 years ago, so it's probably adult Bigfoot now. Either way, I honestly feel like it's a harmless creature, so why don't we just leave the poor thing alone? It's not harming anyone. I mean, it hasn't harmed anyone yet. At number 4 are the Gates of Hell. A deserted road in Antioch called Empire Mine Road has a gate on its side that locals call the Gates of Hell. And at first glance, it honestly looks like a rundown graffitied gate, and most people wouldn't even notice it driving by, but driving by won't do anything to you. It's crossing in the gates that could hurt you. The first legend about the gates is about an insane asylum that it used to be the entrance to. And it was one of those horror movie asylums. I'm talking straitjackets, lobotomies, shock treatments, the whole shebang. And because of that, many believe the ghosts of deceased patients stalk the area, and some even suffer from the same illness that they had in real life. And the spirits around asylums are usually angrier than ones found elsewhere, and if you cross the gate you could very well be attacked by one of the ghosts. One group of explorers felt rocks being pelted at them, and when they got back into their car they felt a giant creature leap onto the hood. The second legend is that it was a slaughterhouse that sat near the gates and that the spirits haunting it are of the animals. But the slaughterhouse was also home to a horrific murder that happened in 1995. A man came running and screaming out of the slaughterhouse, head to toe dripping in blood, claiming his girlfriend had stabbed him. Before medics could get to him, he died. So there is a lot of bad energy radiating around this gate. Filling our number 3 slot is the statue. A girl named Jessica was babysitting for a rich family in California, so you can well imagine that the house was massive with rooms upon rooms inside. During the night in question, the parents went out for a movie, and so the dad told Jessica once the kids are asleep she could go watch TV in the living room. And that wasn't a nice move so she could be entertained, it was so she wouldn't wander and snoop around the house. The kids go to bed and Jessica starts watching TV. I mean, she tries watching it but can't ignore the clown statue in the corner of the room. Even though she found the statue a bit out of place in line with the other decor, she let it go, but after a while it started freaking her out so much that she had to call the dad. She asked him if she could switch rooms because the clown statue was freaking her out. The father replied saying get the kids and leave the house and call the police. She started asking him why, but he told her to just shut up and do it now. She ended up getting the kids and going to the neighbors and calling the police. But she later ended up calling the dad. He said they didn't have a clown statue and that the children had been complaining of a clown watching them sleep, but they assumed it was just a nightmare. Listen to your kids, people, listen to your kids. It's so funny, I've heard so many variations of this legend, but I had no idea it originated in California. Now at number 2 is the mass murder. Now this is an urban legend that circulates in California every year around Halloween. The legend has been around for decades, but it really only gained traction in the social media age. Yay for Twitter and mass murder. The legend starts with a photo from 1962 of a bunch of masked figures posing for what seems like a Halloween party picture. Everyone's in a white face mask, but the figure in the middle is in a black hooded one. Legend has it moments after the photo was taken, the black hooded figure locked all the doors to the party and then went and killed 7 of the party members before escaping from the scene. No one has any idea who the man is, and the only thing ever found about the case was the mask itself. Ugh, I just don't like people in masks on Halloween from way back when, like their masks were so scary. And these days dressing up for Halloween isn't scary, but back then it actually was. And finally, at number 1 are the witches. East Bay's Black Diamond Mines are one of the scariest places in California. At the end of the 1800s, early 1900s, the area was a thriving coal mining community, and the people who lived there are still buried in the Rose Hill Cemetery. There are so many ghost stories surrounding the mines, but the most popular one is a story of Sarah Norton and Mary. Sarah was a widow who married Noah Norton, and it was widely known that she was a witch. One day her services were called for in the town of Clayton, but on the way there she was thrown out of her buggy and killed. In life, she was a very religious, pious woman who emphasized how she didn't want a funeral, yet the locals of Somerville felt she was owed one. The day of her funeral, a terrible storm hit the town and it was delayed. The following day, another storm hit, but this time the town's livestock also came charging through it. The townspeople realized that this all could have been Sarah's spirit telling them she didn't want a funeral under any circumstances. Since then, her ghost has been seen floating around town, but mostly lurking in Rose Hill Cemetery. Now on to Mary. It was a very common name back then, as you can well imagine, so we don't know what her last name was, but her occupation was being a nanny. But strangely enough, every single child she cared for ended up dying, and so the town accused her of witchcraft. And usually in these witchcraft cases an innocent person is accused, but with Mary they actually found evidence of her sorcery rituals. She was hung soon after and is said to be seen near the mines wearing full white. Honestly, what is it with ghosts and wearing white? Like, is it symbolism? What does it mean? Someone tell me.
Coming in at number 10, we have the Flying Monkeys of Napa Valley. I've always wanted to visit the Napa Valley because wine. I love wine. People across the world have probably heard or even tasted the Californian wine made here, but most of you probably will never have heard of rebobs, legendary flying monkeys, or robots, or something in between. They are most frequently sighted around Patrick Road outside of Napa itself. Now, according to local law, the rebobs were made by a mad scientist who tried to combine humans with monkeys, although some believe that they're robots created by the government as a distraction from a doomsday bunker they were apartment building nearby. Some say the monkeys hunt teenagers craving young flesh to satisfy their appetites. All pretty wild theories. Coming into number 9, we have the Witch of the Black Diamond Mines. It is said that the Black Diamond Mines of the Mount Diablo coalfield is home to the ghost of a girl named Mary. It seems in the 1870s Mary was a nanny, but several of the children that she cared for died of illnesses or completely unknown causes. Mary was then accused of being a witch by the mining community, who hung her with little semblance of a trial. The town did claim that they found evidence of sorcery rituals at her home, but who knows back then? Honestly, they just burn the witches, except they hung her. What locals do know is that her spirit still haunts the mine to this day, and it is said to be angry. Mary wants revenge, and I kind of understand. Coming into number 8, we have the Smoke of the Claremont. Out in Berkeley, California, there is an old historic hotel called the Claremont. The original hotel was built in the 1800s, but burnt down as a result of a fire. 10 years later, a new Claremont was built and opened. Great, except the smell of smoke has never left. It seems that smoky fragrances waft through the halls late at night. Oh, and if you travel to the 4th floor, you may or may not meet one of the victims of the fire, a little girl who particularly likes to hang out in room 422. Coming into number 7, we have the San Diego Chilapa. It seems that San Diego may be home to a creature in the ilk of the Chupacabra, Bigfoot, the Sasquatch, or the Abominable Snowman. I really like the word abominable. Abominable. Chilapa is said to be a creature that many say they've heard crying late at night. It's said that the beast stalks San Diego and feeds off the weak, including any children it can sink its teeth into, or homeless people unlucky enough to encounter the menace. 30 mysterious deaths seem to have been blamed on the creature. Although that being said, in February 2012, San Diego residents breathed a sigh of relief as they thought that the monster had washed up dead on Mission Beach. Have a little look at the pictures and tell me what you think. Honestly, I hope that there aren't any baby chulapas out there around willing to continue mummy or daddy's work, because that looks horrible. Abominable. Coming in at number 6, we have the Boy of Grouse Lake. I would love to go to Yosemite National Park and do some hiking, but of course the sprawling 3,000 square kilometer park is filled with myths and legends. Ever since the mid-1800s, reports of a wailing sound have been noted around Grouse Lake. It seems that in 1857, Yosemite's first park ranger Galen Clark heard the cries and went to investigate. It seems that Clark kept hearing the noises and thought that it may well be a dog or an animal, so decided to ask a local First Nations tribe if they had lost a dog or any member of livestock. Legend has it that they responded to tell him that actually it was no dog, and under no circumstances should he go near the water. Why? Well, it was haunted by a First Nations boy who had fallen in and drowned. To this day he is said to call out to those who pass by, but if anyone goes into the water to help him or investigate, he will grab their feet and pull them into the lake until they drown, just like he did. Coming into number 5, we have Toys R Us of Sunnyvale. I feel like Toys R Us had bigger issues than a Californian branch store haunting, what with its spate of closures, but nonetheless the Sunnyvale, California location is said to be haunted by a poltergeist. Poltergeist in a kid's shop, honestly I can't think of anything worse. I actually used to work in a massive toy shop in London as a princess, long story, but sometimes we would do sleepovers for kids overnight, and there really is nothing scarier than a toy shop during the darkness, because your imagination kind of runs wild with all of the scenarios in which the toys could come to life and I don't know, bite your ankles. Either way, scary, right? I think it's scary, but just ask the night staff here at this Toys R Us. Now legend has it that the poltergeist came about after kids broke into the store and snatched an Ouija board off the shelves, holding an impromptu seance and accidentally unleashing a spirit. Spooky. Coming into number 4, we have the Albinos of Hicks Road. It seems that Hicks Road in San Jose is a strange place with an even stranger legend attached to it. Locals believe that the road, which runs between Los Gatos and Twin Creeks, is haunted not by ghosts but by so-called hostile albinos. Rumours of the clan began circulating in the 1970s, and it is said that they are violent to passers-by and will stop cars and attack people with improvised weapons. There aren't accounts of them murdering anyone, just generally displaying hostility hostility and creepy behavior. The legend says that they eat roadkill, and they have been spotted dragging away dead deer into the hills. Coming into number 3, we have Haunted Disneyland. Disneyland California opened in 1955 in Anaheim. I actually went twice with Landon and Danny 2 and 3 years ago. Here's a picture of us along with Michael McCrudden and Charlotte Dobre of I.O. We're having a lovely time. It's a good time. There are balloons. Despite it being the Magic Kingdom, the park is filled with urban legends. The most enduring is that actually Disneyland is haunted by the ghost of none other than Walt Disney himself, who is said to stalk the park at night. He's also said to regularly visit his old apartment above the fire station on Main Street. It is also said that the It's a Small World ride is haunted, with the dolls moving and switching places with others. Some say that the haunted house actually is haunted, not by one of the ghosts that it looks like are kind of there, but by a little boy. Apparently his ashes were scattered or something along those lines. Others say that the Secret Club 33 is the Illuminati headquarters. Honestly, Disneyland is so filled with urban legends, we've made a whole video about it, so you should check that out. Coming into number 2, we have the legend of the Black Dahlia. The death of Elizabeth Short was no legend, it actually happened. In 1947, the budding 23-year-old starlet was found cut in half and severely mutilated. Her killer had drained her blood and scrubbed her body clean and then laid it out meticulously. The case totally stumped the LAPD, with the lead investigator Brian Carr saying, "I just can't imagine someone doing that to another human being." The murder was front page news for months, and Elizabeth's connection with Hollywood made it glamorous in a very macabre way. The killer was never found, and her death is one of the oldest cold cases in LA. It was after she died that the rumours and the legends were born. Some say she was a high-class escort killed by a lover. Some say she was involved with a satanic cult, and various news outlets had elaborated opinions on what had happened to her body. I guess we can't really go into it too much, but some think that she was covered in cigarette burns, and others say they think that she was forced to eat her own feces. Ugh. Somehow she was dubbed the Black Dahlia, and books were written about her. A 2006 movie was made about her starring Scarlett Johansson and Mia Kirshner. Finally, coming into number 1, we have the cursed Hotel Cecil. Some say that all 600 rooms of the Cecil Hotel are cursed. The building has now been rebranded the Stay on Main to avoid associations with its dubious past. The Black Dahlia herself was said to have drunk at the hotel before she met her grisly demise. There is a whole Wikipedia page about deaths and violence at the Cecil Hotel, and on a quick glance I count 16 grisly incidents, and those are just the reported ones. Many of the stories involve suicide by jumping from the top of the building, others involve poison. The hotel was also said to be the home of serial killers Richard Ramirez and Jack Unterweger. The hotel made headlines in 2013 when a Canadian tourist, Elisa Lam, went missing after staying there. A video was posted of her from an elevator security camera by police, as this was the last time she was seen alive. Now the video is actually very scary to watch. She's seen acting exceptionally strangely, very strangely indeed. She presses a number of the buttons in the elevator and the doors fail to close. She's seen peering out of the elevator and looking really scared. She's then seen trying to hide in the corner. She then exits the elevator and seems to be pleading with someone invisible outside of the door. The footage ends with her walking out of shot and the elevator door opening and closing a number of times. On the 19th of February, her body was found by hotel maintenance workers who had come to investigate issues with the hotel water pressure. Now it seems that she was dead in the water tank and had been dead for weeks. The water tank was used for drinking and bathing water for other hotel guests, so blech. What happened to Alyssa, and is the hotel cursed? I'm gonna go with, I don't know, sounds like it.
Starting us off with number 10 is the Billywhack Monster. What a name, I know. The beast is said to be a tall ape-like humanoid with grey hair, horns on its head, and long-ass claws. Not exactly the nighttime teddy bear you want to cuddle up with, but sure. The creature lurks around Camulus Ranch, which used to be where Billywhack Dairy and Ranch was located in Santa Paula. Now it targets high school students mostly, throwing 50-pound rocks at cars, pounding on the hoods of cars so hard that he leaves a dent, and apparently even carries a club. In the 50s, a little boy actually got attacked near the dairy by an unknown animal. He had scratches all across his back and arms, and it said it was the Billywhack monster. But where the hell did it even come from? Let's backtrack. The Billywhack Dairy used to be one of the most advanced modern dairy farms in the world. It was set up by August Rubel, and legend connects him to the Office of Strategic Services, which was the CIA before the CIA. Rumor has it the OSS got Rubel to perform experiments under the dairy in hopes of creating some kind of super soldier of some kind, I don't know, like a Captain America. Either way, the Billywhack monster is said to be the result of that experimentation, and somehow he escaped. Coming in at number 9 is the Demon Cell. Now everyone already knows about Alcatraz, so I'm not about to do some admin backstory or intro to it. When talking about islands no one wants to live on in another video, I mentioned how Alcatraz is haunted like nobody's business. The whole prison is filled with spooky rooms, but the worst area of all has to be the medical ward. Actually, scratch that, there is one place that's worse. Dubbed the Hole, these rooms were deep into the prison and were used only for solitary confinement. Legend has it that in one of the Hole cells in the 40s, a prisoner who was locked in the cell was screaming his lungs out all night, saying a demon-like creature with glowing eyes was trying to murder him. The guards took no notice of him whatsoever, and the next day when he was meant to be released from isolation, he was found strangled to death. Weirdly enough, later that day during head count, the numbers kept counting one extra inmate, and prisoners and guards alike recalled seeing the dead inmate many times after he died. At number 8 we have the Black Dahlia. Now this isn't a myth because it genuinely happened, but I feel like because justice was never served, it deserved to make this list. Now on the morning of Jan 15th, 1947, LA police found a half-naked woman cut cleanly in half lying on the ground. The cut was so clean and precise, onlookers literally thought she was a mannequin, but what they were actually looking at was the murdered body of Elizabeth Short. Her body was entirely drained of blood, so you can imagine how white her skin looked, and she had cuts all over her body. On her boobs, her thighs, the corners of her mouth to her ears were cut, her intestines were shoved under her bum. It was just a very graphic sight. Since she was an actress, the public was very interested in her murder, and despite a huge manhunt taking place, the culprit was never found, and so no one was ever charged for her murder. I say this is a myth because I feel like by now the killer himself has kind of become a bit of a myth. I just don't understand how someone can do something so brutal and get away with it. It's not okay. Filling our number 7 slot are the Dark Watchers. Now the Dark Watchers have been part of Californian folklore for quite some time. They've been described as observing travelers that live along the Santa Lucia Mountains. The Dark Watchers are said to be extremely tall, sometimes even giant and featureless. They're literally just walking dark silhouettes that either wear hats or carry walking sticks. Most travelers that have seen them have reported seeing them around twilight and dawn, and they literally just stand there watching travelers go by. No one has ever seen any of them up close, and if you even try to approach them, they disappear into thin air. The Chumash people used to inhabit the area way back when, and they even drew pictures of these phantom type things on their cave walls, showing these things have been around for quite some time. And we still don't know what the hell they are. Now at number 6 are the Turnbull Canyon hauntings. Now this is a huge hiking canyon located in the Puente Hills Preserve near Whittier. The myth surrounding the canyon started with the Gabrielino Indians, who dubbed the area the place of the devil. It said the entire canyon is haunted by Indians who were murdered for refusing to convert to Catholicism. Their angry spirits continued to linger around the canyon, just unable to rest. Years after that, the site started being used for a bunch of satanic rituals by cults trying to conjure up different demons, and of course Satan himself, because who doesn't love a cheeky bit of the devil? I certainly don't. And by now on this channel, satanic rituals are all well and good, except these cults used to sacrifice children from a nearby orphanage to do so. Problematic level just very much rising. But then in the blink of an eye, the cult vanished, leaving hikers to see ghostly hooded figures, mutilated children, and hellish creatures. Coming in at number 5 is the Charred Man of Creek Road. Now this one's kind of hard to talk about because no one's quite sure on what the Charred Man is. I know the title says he's a man, but he could be a spirit, a beast, a human, a werewolf, no one actually knows. Located in Camp Comfort County Park, this myth has been going around for ages, and many people claim to have seen the Charred Man in real life. Many think he's the angered spirit of a burn victim of a living creature who's hell-bent on taking his suffering out on everyone else. It's been seen roaming the woods near Creek Road Bridge at night, and anytime a car appears, it jumps out and glares at the drivers with its hollow burnt socket. His body is so torched you actually can't even recognize what he is if you tried. But you will recognize when he's nearby because the stench he gives off is unmistakably horrid. At number 4 is the ghost of Stowe Lake. Located in San Fran's Golden Gate Park, there's a very well-known myth surrounding Stowe Lake. Apparently, a woman drowned in this lake while attempting to save her child from drowning, and I guess she never left the lake. Also known as the White Lady, the woman loiters around the edges of the lake looking for her child in the water. It's said that if you say White Lady, I have your baby 3 times in the area, then she'll appear. But be forewarned, I don't think you want to do that because it will not end well for you either way. If she believes you and appears, then she'll haunt you for the rest of your life. But if she appears and you've lied, then they say she drags you into the water with her, giving you the same death she had to endure. So either way, just don't tell her you have her baby or you don't, just leave it. Filling our number 3 slot are the little people. Now this one definitely isn't the scariest one on the list, but I do find it cute. Legend has it that since people started climbing Mount Shasta for the first time, there have been so many reports of seeing little people on the way up. They apparently act like gremlins and try to sabotage the person's climb up, and many have even heard the people talking to each other and the climbers trying to make them feel like they're hallucinating. Honestly, pesky little things. The little people live inside the caves of the mountains, which the myth claims contains portals to a fairy world within the mountain itself. Seems like they have some kind of fairy Narnia in there or something. Either way, because the story is so widespread, hikers usually carry small offerings of food with them for the little people just to ensure their climb goes smoothly and that one of these little people doesn't climb into their bag and then cut their climbing rope, sending them to their death. Sorry, just let my mind wander for a bit. Now at number 2 is the monster of Elizabeth Lake. Now I'm aware there are many Elizabeth Lakes in California, but the one we're talking about is outside of Lancaster. The myth claims that the devil himself made this lake to house one of his hellish pets. If you swim deep enough into the lake and get past whatever the hell is in there, they say you'll find the passageway to hell. The first time anyone saw the monster was back in 1880. Now looks wise, it has the head of a bulldog, neck of a giraffe, it's 50 feet long and it has bat wings and it smells like shit. At one point, fear of the monster was so severe that people up and left their properties and no one wanted to build on the lake's land either. When night came around, residents would hear screams from the lake, farm animals would disappear, and a winged creature would be seen taking them away. Now I already hate scary underwater creatures, but if you're telling me Satan himself made this one, then I'm out. And finally, at number 1 is Bodie. Now Bodie is a ghost town in California and it's actually a huge historical landmark. 200,000 people visit it every year, so I mean it's quite a popular tourist destination. But since it is a ghost town, the myths and legends surrounding the town are endless. They say if visitors take anything from Bodie, even a pebble, they'll be cursed with extreme bad luck until they return it. Funnily enough, the park rangers there actually have a logbook of things people have returned to the town, so clearly something is going wrong for all these people to believe it and then return their items. The curse itself is said to be perpetrated by the ghosts of the town that protect it from theft. Almost every building in the town is haunted. The J.S. Kane house is haunted by a Chinese maid who apparently hates adults but loves kids. When adults have slept in the house, they felt a very heavy feeling, which is actually the ghost of the Chinese woman sitting on them. The Gregory house is haunted by an old woman who can be seen rocking in her chair back and forth and knitting. The Mendocini house is haunted by the missus of the house who loved cooking Italian food, so the smell of it is always around. At the cemetery lives the Angel of Bodhi, a 3-year-old girl that was accidentally killed by a miner's pick. So although it may not be the most menacing on this list, I feel like it's like a city from The Sims. All the ghosts have their own personalities and are just living their own lives. It's kind of neat.